The Secrets of Technology is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
I'm Kim Commando, America's Digital Goddess, and you're listening to the Secrets of Technology podcast. Enjoy.
You're listening to the Secrets of Technology. Hi, I'm Dom Bettinelli, and you're listening to the Secrets of Technology, where we discuss the technology news that's important to you from a uniquely Catholic point of view. And joining me today on the panel are Father Andrew Kinstetter. Hi, Father Andrew.
Hello there.
And Pat Scott. Hi, Pat.
Greetings and salutations.
Folks, I want to start off by suggesting another show on the StarQuest Network that you might also want to listen to, called The Catholics of Oz. And it's not about Dorothy and the Tin Man and the... No, we mean the other Oz, the real Oz, Australia. We have our great friends, Lindsay, Caroline, and Lino, three great Catholics from the Melbourne area of Australia who have this great podcast called The Catholics of Oz, where they talk about faith, living their faith. They also talk about science. They talk about what's entertaining them, especially a lot of the sorts of things that we all enjoy here, like Doctor Who and Star Wars and Star Trek and all kinds of stuff like that. So it's a great podcast. Comes out every other week. So check it out, Catholics of Oz, wherever you get podcasts from, but also you can find it at sqpn.com/Oz, O-Z. So I wanted to start with a little follow-up from last week, which last time we were together, I had mentioned that my wife Melanie had given her computer a waterborne illness again. And I had contacted AppleCare because we had AppleCare Plus, and they sent a box, which I received last Wednesday. On Thursday, I packed it up, brought it down to the FedEx drop-off. I got notified that they received it on Friday. Sunday, I got a notice saying it was being shipped back to me, and I had it back on Monday.
Wow.
Yeah, good as new. They said they replaced the motherboard and some other components, and I got it all set up on Tuesday, reloaded her apps. And I mean, it's so much easier these days to get your stuff going again on a computer. It's just everything's in the cloud. So it's just log into all your cloud accounts again. I mean, even all of the stuff on her desktop just showed up because that's where she stores all her files, is on her desktop. And that just showed up. It was awesome.
Did you do a time machine backup, or are you just loading everything from iCloud?
Just everything from iCloud. I have other backups. I have Backblaze. I have, other backups that I could have gone from. But because I have got her to save everything either in iCloud or in Dropbox, not on the computer itself, not in the documents folder as much as possible, she was up and running again right away. And that's kind of a real lesson is, the more you get, you rely on the cloud services, the less that something like this happening takes you out of business for a long period of time. You really can get back up and running again.
Yeah, I do want to mention that if somebody's got a lot of applications that aren't stock Apple apps, having a time machine backup is incredibly beautiful because you just plug in the backup and come back in an hour or two, and everything is exactly positioned, all the settings exactly like it was when it was on the old hard drive.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Is if you've got a lot of apps, you got to, like, if it would have happened to me, I would be a much bigger deal because I have, as Father Corey is always pointing out to me, I have 1 billion and one apps running on my computer. Yeah. So,
right.
Yeah. So,
but even that's great.
Yeah, it was very good. I was very happy, very pleased that to get back up running with that. So good on Apple for that. All right, so let's talk about our topics for tonight. And our first topic is a very distinctly Catholic topic from a technology perspective. And we're going to be talking about Blessed Carlo Acuitis. Now, I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it right, but that's how I pronounce it. Acuitis. And
Acuitis is how I've heard it pronounced.
Okay, Acuitis. Yeah. He's Italian from the city of Milan. He was 15 years old when he died of leukemia in 2006. And that makes him the first millennial to be raised to the altars, as we say. He's blessed. He's not yet a saint, but he's been beatified. That's the step just before canonization. And so he's sometimes called the millennial patron saint of the internet age. and he's an interesting figure.
Can I jump in quick with a distinction here? You mentioned the distinction between a blessed and a saint. Mm-hmm. And I know when I was in seminary kind of trying to figure this out, it was confusing to me. I actually have an icon of Blessed John Paul II. And so blessed is a canonical term, essentially, that says that someone is indeed in heaven, but they cannot be celebrated by the worldwide community on their feast day. They can be celebrated locally to where they were. Once they're declared a saint, then they can be added to the worldwide universal calendar.
Okay.
So the fact that he's a blessed does mean that he's technically he's in heaven, but he's not yet able to be celebrated on his feast day worldwide.
Right. It's an important distinction, because these are important. The church makes distinctions; they are important. But it is an important distinction. I think one of the big things that for the next step is to become blessed, you have to have a miracle attributed to your intercession after your death. So, someone prayed for healing or something in his name, asked him to pray for them to the Lord. And then for canonization, there has to be a second miracle. I'm pretty sure that's how that works. So we're just waiting for a second miracle for Blessed Carlo. And so a few things about him. Why we're talking about him on the Secrets of Technology. He was a computer whiz kid. He was a lot of people said he was a computer genius. He was really good at coding. When he was 11, he built a website of Eucharistic miracles that's still online today. You can actually go visit his website. He played video games. He was a big fan of Apple computers, which makes sense. And I mean,
as we're all Apple fanboys here.
Yes, as all Apple fanboys will attest. And also Star Wars fan, father, right?
That's right. So there's a video. So he liked to create videos too, and so we'll have a link in the show notes that he created. It's all in Italian, so I'm not entirely sure what it is, but it's like a minute and a half. It looks like it's an introduction to his personal website, but it's done with the Star Wars theme. It's got kind of a homage crawl text that he has his name and he put himself in a spaceship and it's kind of fun, but it's a homage to Star Wars. And of course, me being the Star Wars fan, this was like, okay, this is my best friend saint now for all time.
It is really cool to have someone who's been declared blessed, who is so much like us in these ways. That he would have a smartphone. He was on the internet. He liked playing video games. He probably was an Xbox fan. I mean, in 2005, you might have or PlayStation.
Actually, PlayStation was what I've read is he was more into, which is my least favorite of the consoles. But
well, not perfect,
Right.
But like it's funny to think about. Like if you played an online multiplayer game back in 2004 or 5, you might have played against him. And it's interesting. I mean, it's not like it doesn't make him a superhero, and that's a big thing. Like being blessed or saint is not like a superhero in the sense you have superpowers, because what made him holy is not that he played video games or he liked Star Wars or all these other things. What made him holy was how he lived his life and loved God. And we'll have links to some other pages and websites dedicated to him that kind of talk about the sorts of ways he lived. And it was pretty awesome. Things like from the day he had made his first communion, he started going to daily mass. He he prayed the rosary every day. And, he was apparently a natural jokester, and he's sort of a class clown. But when he realized that by being funny and making everybody laugh, that might annoy others, like teachers. And so he tried not to be disruptive. Very interesting self-awareness in the little ways that he tried to live his life to be holier and a better person, and to amend his ways and to always strive to be better. And that's really one of the things I really like about him, is that he's just so normal,
Yep.
Right.
And I think that's key, is that, the saints that God wants us to be is the men and the women that he made us to be. So to be a saint doesn't mean that I have to like let go of my humanity and become, like this sort of unattainable superhero. But rather, God wants to work within our humanity and with all the hobbies and the talents that he gives us. And what's awesome about Blessed Carlo is that, he didn't shy away from his kind of geeky fandom stuff, but he kept it in proper order. God was first, and then everything else kind of came below that. One of the things that's interesting about his love of video games is that he would only allow himself to play for an hour a week to prevent himself from becoming a slave to it. So he was a gamer and loved it, but he also recognized that, he can't become a slave to it. And so he put it in its proper perspective. And so I really appreciate that, because he's so relatable, especially to my generation. And, and he can be such a witness for us that, we can like Star Wars, we can like all the geeky things, and none of that is contrary to being the saint that God calls us to be.
I was just going to say, because a lot of times you'll hear people say, well, that's frivolous, or that's
Right.
bad. You shouldn't be spending your time on that. And if it's done within proper perspective, it's fine. It's just a matter of, I think that this is a hope for those that feel like they've been kind of told that their interests aren't important and their interests should be curtailed.
Right. There was a priest friend of mine. He was a deacon at the time, and I was in seminary, and he liked to say that as long as you're not sinning, God delights in what you delight in.
Yeah.
And I loved that, because it's there can be this temptation in all of us as we're striving to be holy, to say, well, if it's not explicitly religious or connected to the church somehow, then I somehow need to just let it go and not engage in it. No, actually, we're called to be, salt of the earth and live in the world. And again, keep it in proper perspective, and as a complete kind of side note, but also in line with this, that's why I have embraced the whole Father Fett identity that I run with, on the Secrets of Star Wars podcast and online. And it's not, because I want to elevate that as somehow, the most important thing in the world, but I'm embracing the geekiness that God has created in me and ordering it to what I'm all about, God first, and then all the fun random stuff that falls underneath that.
Was it Teresa of Avila who said, "God save us from sour-faced saints"?
Yeah.
And the idea is that joy, and it's one of the things that really speaks to me for StarQuest, because some people will say, well, why do you have podcasts on Star Trek and Star Wars and Doctor Who, and they're frivolous, or they're anti-Catholic or anti-God even. We've had some people say things like that. And it's like, well, no, we don't necessarily, I don't necessarily agree with everything that is advanced or said or proposed in every episode of every TV show or movie that we discuss, but we delight in the good things. We delight in the creativity and the hopefulness and the truth that is found there. And I think that's an element that we see in Blessed Carlo is, he kept things in their right order and saw things for what they were and enjoyed them for what God had made for him. And that's what I love. And one of my favorite Beati saints is Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati. I've had a devotion to him for many years, a couple decades now, actually getting close to 3. And I built speaking of tech, the first website devoted to Blessed Pier Giorgio on the internet was the one I built in 1996 in my AOL space, where you could go to personal web pages. Oh yes, I was there. And,
is it still there?
No, but it's still online. It's on my website now at
okay.
betnet.com/Frassati. And the thing I loved about him was he was a normal guy. He was a regular dude. He struggled with his schoolwork. He liked to hang out with his friends and drink wine and smoke cigars and go mountain climbing and skiing and pray and go to mass. And, he was politically active. He struggled with his parents not understanding him and all that sort of stuff. And that's what this is. Saints I love all our saints, but saints from 1,000 years ago are harder to relate to than saints from today, and that's one of the things I like about it. Is I don't know how St. Francis would really deal with the internet and cell phones, and probably would throw them all away. But maybe not the best example. But other saints, would deal with these things. But I know how Blessed Carlo did, and how he integrated that into striving for holiness, and so that's why I love that we could promote his cause and his example here on our show.
It kind of reminds me of the, was it Brother Andre? No, I'm trying to remember, that talked about the sanctification of the day-to-day, the pots and the pans and that was Brother Lawrence.
Brother Lawrence,
who that was. Yeah. At any rate, of just the everyday can be made holy, and that's what we're called to do.
Mm-hmm.
Was it St. Bonaventure? Speaking of making the everyday holy, St. Bonaventure was one of the great saints in the Reformation age, around the Council of Trent. And he was a monk, and he'd been named by the Pope to be a cardinal. And this delegation of cardinals came to the monastery to tell him about this great honor that the Pope had bestowed on him. And he made them wait till he was finished washing dishes before he came. He's like, humility first. So that is awesome. So we'll have a bunch of links in the show notes to the different things you can read about Blessed Carlo, but I really encourage you to find out more about him. If you have kids who are millennials and younger, especially, introduce them to him, and let them know that it is possible to be holy and live in the 21st century.
And if you have a website, he's your patron saint.
Exactly. And when you're having tech problems, pray for his intercession. I know I will be doing a lot of that.
I think we do need to mention the quote that you have in the notes distributed to him, though, because I think it sort of encapsulates everything that we've been talking about, is that this quote is attributed to him. He said, "We are born as originals, but too many die as photocopies."
Right.
So an appropriately techie quote, but at the same time, it's we're called to be the saints that God created us to be, and we shouldn't try to be somebody different. We should be ourselves.
Yes, be yourself. Be the person God made you to be. Don't try to be what others are. Don't conform yourselves to what St. Paul said. Don't conform yourselves to this world. Be original. Be authentic. I mean, frankly, that's one of the key phrases of today in social media, right? People value authenticity.
Yeah.
So he's the saint of the authentic.
He's the saint of authenticity. Yes. Well, all of them are really. Awesome. So, Blessed Carlo, pray for us, and may you be elevated to the altars as Saint Carlo soon. All right. Before we move on, I want to take a moment to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the secrets of technology, including Del M, Victoria M, Rex K, Alan E, and Barbara T. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the secrets of technology and all the shows at StarQuest. You can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. So we have our next bit of discussion stems from something current events throughout the second half of our show, because this just came up in the last 24 hours before we're recording this, and we really need to talk about it because this really intersects with our mission, which is to talk about technology from a distinctly Catholic perspective. And it's the case of the Monsignor Burrill, who has recently resigned as the General Secretary of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. And that was a very important position in the United States, in the Catholic Church in the United States. And he resigned after the Pillar Catholic, it's a news organization. They have a website, pillarcatholic.com. They ran a story about how they obtained data that showed he was using a particular app for which is used for encounters of a particular sort. I'm trying to be just in case kids are listening. Some of this is not kid friendly, but it's solely used for encounters of a particular sort, which would be in violation of the vows that Monsignor Burrill took as a priest. And they obtained this data that showed that he was using this app and that he had gone to places where a priest should not normally go, or frankly, no practicing Catholic should be going.
No one should be going to these places.
Exactly. So I wanted to have a discussion about this, not because I want to talk about what Monsignor Burrill did. I think that is clear cut, that what he did was wrong, and if what is alleged is true, was immoral, and he did the right thing by resigning his post. But that's a whole different part of it. I want to talk about the technology aspect of this, because there's been a lot of people talking about it, a lot of misinformation, and a lot of people who don't seem to understand how their smartphones and the internet work. And we've talked a lot about that here, and so I want to go over this again. According to the Pillar, they're a little vague on some of the details, but what they said is that someone gave them data which was purchased legally from a data mining broker that was anonymized, did not have identifying information. But what it did have was times, dates, and locations and unique identifiers for particular phones. And someone was able to take that information and correlate it with Monsignor Burrill's known locations at those dates and times, including his residence that's owned by the USCCB and the USCCB offices and various meetings around the country. And there's enough of these data points to say that this is, nearly certainly Monsignor Burrill's his phone. And the data indicated also that he was using this particular app and going to some of these other particular places that like I mentioned. And some people are under the misapprehension that this data was obtained illicitly, that it's this massive invasion of privacy. And I'm here to tell you, there's data like this on all of us. Mm-hmm. If you have a cell phone and you sign into apps like Facebook and Twitter and any of these others, Instagram and all of them, this sort of data about where you were, at what times and what places is out there. And so I want to just put that out there first. So, and we can talk about other aspects of also how we can safeguard our data, but I just want to put that out there first and see if y'all have anything you want to add to that aspect of it.
Well, it's a known fact that a lot of people have been able to track people even with this anonymous data. Like, I know that there was a situation where servicemen who were supposedly, their whereabouts weren't supposed to be known, but they were using particular exercise apps, and the location data was available from the app through anonymized sources, and so they could tell where there were bases, there were people using these apps to exercise, and therefore that could be a sign of that. Hey, there's some forces over there.
Right, these secret special forces, and I think CIA bases in Asia. I think it was like not in Afghanistan, but in countries around it, where no one knew that we had bases there, and suddenly all of these U.S. based people. U.S.-based phones were showing up, exercising in these places. I think it was Strava or something, but I wasn't sure if that's exactly what it was. But it was one of those apps. And when you work out, you can have your data go up on this website, and it includes GPS data. There was a huge thing at the Pentagon afterwards about talking about locking down your data leakage, so that this sort of stuff doesn't get out there. But this sort of thing, these apps have for years, lots of these apps for years have been packaging up the data and selling it off. What was the one, the movie one where you could buy
Fandango?
No, it was the one that was like had that really sketchy business model where you got a debit card that you could use to buy unlimited movie passes.
Oh, yeah, it was a movie pass of some sort. Yeah. And people really took advantage of it
it was really like you paid $5 and you got hundreds of dollars worth of movie tickets for nothing. And it's like, how is that sustainable? Well, it wasn't, because they're out of business now. But they were also selling huge amounts. They were tracking you from the moment you opened that app. They were tracking your data, where you were going, and like what restaurants you went to before the movie, and all this other stuff that it turned out that they were tracking on people, like all this nefarious stuff. Now, a lot of this stuff isn't possible anymore. We could talk about how that's changing as these companies like Google and Apple keep locking things down. But a lot of these apps were able to get so much data from you, and there's less of it now. But you just have to realize is that absent taking extreme measures, you just have to assume any website that I go to, any app that I open, anything I do in those apps, and anywhere I take my phone with an app active is going to be recorded somewhere. That's just a fact.
And I think it's important to remember that, because I think so many people are just unaware of that. And how many times do we just click through the terms of service without reading all, and nobody's going to read it. I mean, it's in legalese. Rarely you're going to have anybody who actually reads that. But how many of those, even normal apps, I mean, not even just kind of the weird, obscure or the bad apps, how many of them in their terms of service that we're agreeing to say that they are going to, take our private data and our location data, and that's where this is going, is because we have given them permission to take it and then to sell it.
On the opposite side, I've had a lot of people who are concerned about this legitimately. And so when they go to their phones and they disable a lot of the stuff that is, an app may ask for location data, and then they come to me and say, but I can't use Google Maps to go anywhere, or I can't log into this because it says it won't show me anything on the app. Yeah, well, there's convenience versus privacy.
Right.
And it's always that balance. And so, you don't really want to cripple yourself. On the other hand, you don't be merrily saying yes to everything and letting that flashlight get your contacts.
So let's talk about ways we can protect some of our data. And one of the things is, whenever you install a new app, and you should probably occasionally go through your apps to double check these in your preferences. But whenever you install an app, it usually has to ask permissions for various things. And one of the things it asks for is, can I track your location? And at least on iOS, you can tell it only while I have the app open, or track me all the time. Oh, it is rare that I say an app can track me even when the app is not open. Very rare. It has to be a very specific kind of app. There's a few that I allow that for, but very few. And for many, I'm like, why do you need to track my location? And they'll sometimes say, oh, it's for this really cool feature. I'm like, not cool enough, thanks. And I say no. So there's that. And then if it asks for microphone or camera ability, that's an even less likely, unless it's a camera app. Yeah. But yeah, the location data is a big one. Apple is building into iOS 15 and has plans in the future to really keep locking this stuff down, to anonymize. So they were able to get the. I got like three things coming out at once. let me back up my brain. When you're in an app, logged into an app or a website, there is no anonymizing that the phone can do for you, because you've given them permission to be open, and this is what you're doing in the app. Now, if you lock down location data, the location that if you can't check your location, then the app can't say, you were here, and that's one of the things that, and I don't mean to say like this as a way for people to go do things they shouldn't be doing, frankly, or to not get caught doing things that you shouldn't be doing.
Well, but this could just be a safeguard if someone was stalking you, or someone was, it's not just, this is how to get around location tracking to be nefarious. This is just to be safe. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You don't have to necessarily be, just because you want your data to be secure and not leaking all over the place doesn't mean you're guilty of anything. And that's a fallacy that we've got to nip in the bud.
Right.
We have a right to be secure in our location and what we're doing. It's not necessarily anybody else's business. If you're gonna do it in such a way that other people can see, just like walking down the street and someone taking a picture of you doing something you shouldn't be doing, and if you're out in public, that's you. Well, you did a thing that was public. And that's essentially what the data tracking is essentially public. So if you want to be private, you have to lock things down. I mean, I hope you can tell I feel torn about some of this, because I don't want this to be a way for people to do things they ought not do, but I also want people to be secure in the use of their data and the use of their technology, and to understand how it works. At least I think that's the important thing. We need to understand how it works and what kind of data we're putting out there, and then you make your own decisions based on it. The other thing, and this I was reading, by the way, this is the first big case of someone in a large institution being, losing their job based on this sort of data. I saw a couple of news agencies saying this. So this is a big deal even outside of Catholic circles.
Well, and that was because of his prominence in the USCCB, and
right.
I mean the public nature of who he is. They were able to correlate the data.
Yeah.
Easier.
Right. If this were parish priest, I don't think it's a real story then, and B, I'm not sure you could correlate the data like that. I mean, in his position, he was traveling all over the country and going
right.
to all of these meetings and
public schedules. Yeah.
Yeah, he had public schedules that you could check. I'm not sure this is the sort of thing you could do with a chairman of the parish council, or, the guy who owns the hardware store, that sort of thing, or, your pastor. And I'm not sure that it's as big a deal. I mean, I saw one person who compared his position to be like the highest ranking non-bishop in the U.S., which I'm not sure, we don't really rank things that way, but sure. The fact that he was in charge of particular policies and the implementation of policies that were kind of related to the things he was doing wrong, I think that's relevant. Again, I didn't really want to get into that aspect of this thing. So mainly, I just want people to be aware that his phone wasn't hacked. They didn't break into any data. This information is out there and already being bought and sold. That's an important point to this. This information is out there and is being bought and sold and being used in non-public, non-transparent ways, non-accountable ways by commercial entities or business entities or, people who want to blackmail people. So, I mean, it's important to realize that this data is out there.
I also want to point out, I don't want us to just cause all our listeners to go into a panic and be scared either.
Right.
A lot of the location stuff is very, very helpful and is a very good thing. I mean, Google Maps or Apple Maps, I would be lost without using location services for that. Or, in particular, things like, at least in the Apple ecosystem, the Find My app,
right?
And I know Android has something similar. So when I go home, my mom can see my location as I'm driving home, so she knows, that I'm yep. So I mean, it is one of these things that, I mean, you can go paranoid on the one side and just not use any of it, and that's perfectly fine. But then there are some really good and useful ways to use it that's not nefarious and not inherently unsafe either.
Right. Very good. Thank you. Yeah, that is true. There's another news story that came out this week that wasn't related specifically to Catholic things, but semi-related, about the Pegasus spyware from this company, non-U.S. company that sells this software, they said, to law enforcement and military and governments to track down criminals and terrorists. Well, it turns out that this software got out into the hands of some governments that are oppressive and others who then used it to target the phones of journalists and activists and that sort of thing. And the software, which works iOS and Android, to take over the phone, turn on the microphone remotely, turn on the camera. I mean, this is full on spyware sort of take over everything, sort of high tech stuff. This is and it takes advantage of certain exploits that are that have been discovered and not been fixed by either Apple or Google, which is why you always, as soon as an update comes through, update your phone. always keep your phone as up to date as possible, because every update fixes these kinds of bugs. So the 99.99% of people do not need to worry about this spyware, because it's very expensive, only used by nation state sorts of people, and unless you're a journalist in one of these places or an activist, you don't really need to worry. But I bring it up because it brings to mind like their assurance that, this is only supposed to be used by the good guys. And it reminds me that Apple was right several years ago when the FBI wanted them to build in a law enforcement backdoor into iOS, and Apple refused. But we'll hold the key and we'll never use it except when we really, really have to for really bad guys. I'm sorry, as soon as a backdoor exists, it's going to get out and it's going to get used and it's going to get abused. It better to not have the backdoor at all and use old-fashioned and still effective criminal investigative techniques to fight crime and that are still valid. So I just wanted to make that point about the Pegasus spyware. Anything else we want to say in this topic? I do want to encourage listeners, if you have questions about the technology aspects of this story, we would love to take them. We probably won't, again, discuss the moral and administrative and other aspects of the story. That's for other sorts of venues. But we will talk about the technology aspects of this as much as we can based on what information is out there. I will say I have background in journalism myself. I worked for various different Catholic news outlets over the years. I wish I knew more there was more transparency about where this data came from, who procured it, who bought it, who researched it, why did they do it, what's the agenda,
their motivations.
Right. I'm not saying that there's anything nefarious, but I think light shining in the darkness is always better than the darkness. I think transparency is always better, and I would like a little more transparency in this area to find out what's going on behind the scenes here, because it does. Yeah,
it's disturbing.
It should be. We should know more about this. It doesn't excuse anything on the one hand, but I would like to know more about what really happened here. I think that's enough of that. We'll like I said, we'll love to hear from you and take your questions at technology@sqpn.com. All right, so let's move on to our picks of the week. Pat, why don't you go first with your pick of the week?
Well, as some people may have realized, I do like virtual reality. And one of the things about all of the headsets is when you have them on, it becomes very difficult if you're a glasses wearer, especially if you have very poor vision. Now, if you need your glasses just for reading, you might not need to have your glasses on when you're using the Oculus, depending upon where your vision is weak. But for me, if I try to wear it without my glasses, I've got a blurry screen, and that's about all I can see. So I've been struggling with this since October, putting my glasses on and then pulling off the headset and having the glasses get stuck in there and being worried about them scratching, and getting little discs to put in there to keep them spaced far enough that it won't scratch the lenses of the Oculus or scratch my glasses. So I've been watching a lot of the forums or the groups on Facebook about this, and finally took the plunge and ordered a set of lenses. And they're very, very easy. You basically send them your prescription for your glasses, and then they send you back a set of lenses and a little thing that clips inside where the lens normally is inside the Oculus. And basically these are magnetic. There are others that are clipping on a different way, but these, you have a little circle around the eye hole, so to speak, and then you just drop the lens, the appropriate right and left lenses on top of it, and it magnetically attaches. And therefore, if you need to take them out when somebody else is going to be using the headset, you just reach in, pull the tab, and they're out. So let me tell you, I have never seen things clearer. There's no blur. There's not that horrible try to find the sweet spot, it's all pretty good, and I don't have to worry about scratching the lenses as much. I mean, obviously, if you get in there and scratch it, you got a problem even with your prescription lenses. But it's just a real relief. And these are not just for the Quest. These places make them for all of the virtual reality headsets. Some of the places charge more depending upon what your prescription is. The one I chose did not. It basically says, whatever your prescription is, we'll make them. And these were well reviewed by a lot of people, and there's about 4 or 5 different companies out there that make them. Some of them get them to you within a week, and others are, mine took several weeks because they were backlogged because they were so popular.
And which one did you choose?
I chose Reloptix, Reloptix. They're in Colorado. They're in the U.S. and in Colorado. And evidently they've become so popular that they were several weeks backlogged and a major piece of equipment broke, and so they had to get that fixed before they could gear up to finish their orders. So that was really what happened. But I'm very happy with them. But there's some other ones called VR Wave and the VR Optician, and there's several others out there that are all good. But for those people who have that very niche of a problem of wearing glasses with a headset, guess what? There's help.
Well, I'm in the same boat. I have glasses, and whenever I put the headset on, I'm constantly grabbing the stems and pushing it forward or back, because
and then it pushes on your cheeks, and
or it pushes on my eyelashes, and it's like, I don't like it. Then I have to push it forward, and then it gets foggy, and so I ordered some lenses from Reloptix myself.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, they are backward, like you said.
Yes, I know.
And so,
but it was worth waiting for me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that because it will be so much better to not have to, because it is a pain to try to get the headset on over your glasses without accidentally smudging the glasses. That's the other thing. It's like, and I got to take it off again to clean the glasses. So I'm looking forward to getting that. It'll be much better. Excellent.
I'm just chuckling because I can't relate.
I know, you don't have any glasses.
I know. Just wait. I didn't wear glasses until I was 40. Yeah, I got my glasses when I turned 40. So anyway. So Father Edgy, what's your pick?
So my pick is I guess you would call it an online service, but it's sort of an online storage service of sorts. But to kind of give the background, how many times have people in general read an article online and then forgot to bookmark it, forgot to save it, and then months later you're trying to remember, dang it, what was that article that I read 2 months ago? And of course, then you can't find it because you have to try to search back through all sorts of things. So my pick of the week is this online service called Pocket. So the idea is that it's sort of like if you're reading a news article, you can just click a button and save it to your Pocket. And you can just collect, you can collect news articles, you can collect videos, you can collect websites. It's anything online you can save into your virtual Pocket. And then it kind of stores it all in one spot, and you can go back and look things up later that you saved. And if you wanted to, kind of deep dive into it later and you don't have time, you can save it to your Pocket and come back to it later. I remembered it today because that's actually, as we were going to talk about Blessed Carlo Acuitis, I had saved some Catholic news articles from back in October when he was declared a blessed, and I had saved those in Pocket, so I was able to pull those back up without having to Google search and try to find everything. So definitely a handy tool for those of you who like to save news articles or any sort of kind of online content in one spot. And so it is free. There is a premium version, and I've never actually used the premium version, but the free version is very, very competent for kind of what I use it for.
And is it an app or a web-based service?
Yep. So it's an app. You can use it on your iOS, Google. You can download it on the Mac. It's also, you can access it just through an internet browser. You can pull up all your Pocket articles.
There are extensions.
There's extensions with Chrome, etc.
Yep.
Okay.
And Safari.
Yep. Because then it's just a simple matter of if you pull it up on your phone, you just hit the little share button and tell it to open in Pocket, and it'll send it to Pocket, or the extensions on your internet browser will do the same thing once you have it downloaded onto your computer.
Yeah, these read it later services are fantastic. They're a lifesaver. You don't want to be the like me where I used to save 70, like I had 70 tabs in my browser because I'm gonna read all that someday, and then the browser was like, why is it so slow? I wonder. And so this is just save it in the pocket, come back and look at it later. Well, my pick is a little piece of hardware that I got, a review. Just for full disclosure, I got this as a review copy. I get to keep it, but I have to pay taxes on the market value at some point. But this is the Logitech Combo Touch keyboard case for iPad. iPad 7th and 8th generation, iPad Air 3rd gen, and iPad Pro 10.5 inch. And it is a keyboard case. So there's a case that goes around the iPad. There's a keyboard that connects to the bottom. It has a trackpad, which is very nice because iOS 14 added some really good trackpad functionality, and iOS 15 is going to have even more of that. And the best part is it uses the smart connector, which so it's not Bluetooth. It gets its power from the iPad, and it's instantaneous response. So by that, I mean, with Bluetooth, whenever I had my Bluetooth keyboard attached to my iPad, you'd tap a key, you have to wait for it to wake up and make the Bluetooth connection, and then you could go. This is instantaneous. As soon as you touch a key, it's active because it's connected through the smart connector. And it pops on and off really easy. Like it's just magnetically held on to it. So when I want to put my iPad in the holder that I have in the bathroom, so while I'm shaving, I can watch Mac Break Weekly. That's what I do when I'm shaving, is I watch Mac Break Weekly. And so I can put it in the holder on the wall, and I don't have the keyboard in the way. And you can even fold it around backwards and put the keyboard on the back, or just carry it around without the keyboard. So I had some pros and cons that I wanted to mention about it. And I forgot to pull those up before, so let me pull those up now. So the pro is the smart connector, the instant response, no Bluetooth lag. It's very lightweight, very slim. That's another big thing. My previous Logitech Create case I had for one of my older iPads felt very bulky. And in fact, the previous case I had was pretty bulky. So I didn't really. I like it. It had nice and slim. It has like a fabric feel to the wrist rest on the keyboard, and that feels nicer than just regular plastic. A couple of cons: the kickstand. So it doesn't stand up on its own. You have to have there's like a fold out kickstand, sort of like the Surfaces do, the Microsoft Surface. So it folds up from the back and it rests on it. That's not great for like if you want to sit on your lap or uneven surfaces. So I don't love that aspect of it. It's all right. I'm sort of adapting to that. And there's no Apple Pencil holder, like even a loop to slide it in. I mean, it'll you can put it on the magnetic part of the iPad, like Apple wants you to do. That never feels secure to me. I had my last case when you close the iPad, there was a magnetic thing that would flap around and hold the keyboard case closed and hold the Apple Pencil on. So that felt a little more secure. This is the Apple Pencil just kind of hanging out there. I don't love that. But those are minor. Those are very small compared to just how well it works and how much I like it. So this is the Logitech Combo Touch keyboard case. Excellent. So I think that about does it for now. We would love to hear your feedback on anything we've talked about today. Like I said, about the big data technology mining thing with Monsignor Burrill, or Blessed Carlo, if you want to hear more about that or respond to that. We'd love to hear your responses there. You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/technology, or the SQPN Facebook page, facebook.com/StarQuestMedia, or send an email to technology@sqpn.com. And you can find links from our discussion and our picks of the week on our show notes at sqpn.com. You can follow The Secrets of Tech in Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, any place you can get podcasts from, or at our SQPN YouTube channel, where you should also hit the bell to get notifications. Until next time, Pat Scott, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of technology.
Thanks for letting me be here.
And Father Andrew Kinstetter, thank you as well.
Always a pleasure.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Technology on StarQuest.